What is going on, everybody? It is Rydex here, and today we are doing a long awaited review of how to W key, how to win fights consistently, and this just so happens to feature one of the best Fortnite players on mobile in EU or in the world, perhaps. It is FNX IAmNoob, Slays' younger brother. We all know he's got 50k earnings and he's one of the most insane fighters in the game, and that's precisely why we're watching his run of getting 5th in the most recent solo Cash Cup. Hope you guys enjoy. So currently IAmNoob is set up at the front of zone. This should be very beneficial for him because he can actually choke everybody who's trying to rotate into him to try and white line into the zone even, or the edge, and he's at a very good position here. We see right now that IAmNoob's position at the front of zone with 84 builds, and the importance of highlighting this is because he has wood, he has metal, and he's specifically building out of metal. The reason why he is specifically building out of metal is because of mobile graphics and low 3D resolution in endgame, his opponents cannot spot him, therefore his opponents may get a false sense of security and he can pounce on his opponents. This is an active choice, it gives him plenty of protection, and the only area where his opponent can even possibly spot him is this area right here. This slight part of unbuilt metal is the only possibility that his opponent can even see through him. He's got brilliant piece control on the whole area. What happens is exactly what I said. He has brilliant piece control in his mid-ground area. He gets a pounce on his opponent, and notice how he lands a headshot on that AR spray. That AR spray headshot is no coincidence. He's tracking his opponent, and that's why you shouldn't be building out of wood in endgame if you can. It's easy to track through when it's fresh built, and even when it's fully built, he's able to get that. And then he lands 113 on Flutter, but because he's got such good discipline, he knows he doesn't need that kill. He doesn't go ahead and chase. It's important to highlight that IAmNoob acknowledges that that player might need something. That's why he's pouncing on the materials. But he respects this player. He knows that he must have some level of mechanics to get to this point. And IAmNoob realistically does not need that kill. So what IAmNoob does is then stay on this mid-ground layer, and he notices that there are people dropping down from high ground, from higher mid-ground, and he gets that good frag on Vento. We're going to be breaking down why IAmNoob's positioning there actually works, because as we can see here, zone pulls down, it's a gentle sloping hill, and people on higher mid ground and potentially on previous older high grounds need to drop. This is the highest mid ground layer that you have. As you can see, not very high up, because everybody's dropping down. Lots of people are dropping down because they've used all of their mats to maintain high ground earlier, to maintain higher mid ground earlier, that they are kind of shambles. They're coming low ground in order to find an impact frag, in order to find a refresh. And as we can see, everybody is sort of on the same layer because everybody's dropped, and high ground's actually in a really good position there. That's why IAmNoob is able to frag out on low ground. If you look at it, so many people in zone, in shambles. IAmNoob goes ultimately for a fish play here. It can work out in his favor. It does end up landing him 5th in this game. IAmNoob's currently pushing up on this player on top of him, and he is in Lazy Lake. This is a sort of a spawn fight. This player chooses not to elevate themselves, a fatal mistake on their part, and IAmNoob's being very protective of his builds, actively switches to hard mats as in brick. As we can see, selecting metal right now, and what happens next here is really nice build pattern from IAmNoob that benefits him. What ends up happening is that IAmNoob chooses to go out one. This is a really old build pattern, really underused, famously used by actually controller players because of how good their movement is. Of course, achievable by mobile. It's when you wall and then you ramp out one, and then perhaps you cone on top, or you build a floor, or you just continue just normally ramping. It is good to counter a cone. It is also good for other situations where you get floor ramped or you get just ramped, perhaps. It's good for redirecting the attention, and that allows IAmNoob to block line of sight here, continues to get up, and that backhand peek, that low ground peek was just absolutely brilliant from IAmNoob. What ends up happening is that this man is so encapsulated in trying to build a floor, trying to stop IAmNoob, that he's exposed too much of his character model that IAmNoob's able to land a shot on him. So if we go back, we read out into the opponent's POV, IAmNoob's ramping up, he elevates himself slightly, and then he's already so exposed, he reaches out to build, he scuffs to build slightly, just about gets that floor down on IAmNoob, but that fails. Noob hits a quick cone jump, protected some creative builds, and then he sets up the mongrel exploit where he decides to ramp and phase with that ramp into your opponent's builds. I think just about everybody knows about this technique currently, and what IAmNoob does differently is that instead of the usual just pickaxing into the opponent's box, IAmNoob chooses to use his SMG and utilize the element of surprise against his opponent and his freshly built cone. We'll just watch this through from this POV. IAmNoob decides to SMG in, and he has a smart swap to the attack shotgun because he knows that he should be able to finish him off in one hit instead of potentially running out of SMG ammo because he's been spraying so much. And he feels confident now about this fight, and he spots another player in his tracks. Therefore, he pre-games with his big pot. Before the fight, you see a lot of people using their materials and using the meds just before a rotate in late game. It applies in early game, and IAmNoob's now confident. He can tell the opponent isn't confident either because of the way that he's crouching. His body movement, his builds shows that this opponent does not want to fight. IAmNoob takes height very easily and applies pressure. Doesn't get attack shotgun shot down, but he does get some chip damage. His SMG confirms with that the opponent actually has shield. So now IAmNoob sets up this really nice right hand peek. These right hand peeks are everything to IAmNoob's gameplay. Right hand peek, box to box. So what he does is that he can actually get a ton of damage towards his opponent, get a ton of pressure laid down, and as we see, he does end up doing that. Doesn't land a shot, but that's really good distance being drawn for the price of 0 materials so far, and he hasn't taken any damage. What ends up happening here, his opponent slightly catches him off guard while he's reloading, but IAmNoob's quick enough to react, places that wall to scuff his opponent. Walls are kind of like cones in this sense where you block off your opponent, but instead of the actual cone letting your opponent travel that far and then them potentially hitting a cone jump, the wall stops them dead in its tracks. Does require a good bit of timing. What IAmNoob is good at though is that timing, and we see that same build pattern being echoed as we saw, so useful and can be backed up. You see IAmNoob actually has practiced this build pattern, it seems like, and he sets up this classic ramp retake on the side, and he doesn't actually hit the wall once. He pretends to swing twice and he pulls out his shotgun. He's expecting this now, and he wins this trade very cleanly. 2 tacks and he's gone. What ends up happening here is that IAmNoob spots this player during mid game and he's trying to look for some laser. He gets a really big laser off. He knows that his opponent is white, and from his opponent's builds and the nature of how he's building, he can tell his opponent isn't a great player. You can see his opponent didn't spot him at all, and the way that he built just wasn't protective. There's a good chance his opponent has 0 idea where IAmNoob is, which allows IAmNoob right now to actually get a last bit of damage on his opponent. His opponent is now literally 1 HP. What IAmNoob then does is the classic IAmNoob where he just chases down his opponent. He's doing these very normal builds, and then he spots his opponent, drops the low ground. His opponent's now playing super defensive. He can't take one single hit of damage, and IAmNoob now echoes the build pattern once again. And what we'll notice right now is that IAmNoob presets up the mongrel ramp exploit. The reason why he does this is because he's prepared to get in, because he knows his opponent actually is super low, and you've got to apply that to your gameplay. When you're confident enough with your aim, you see he's preset that up, and you see that build pattern always being echoed every single fight. So now IAmNoob comes down, uses his tack that hits for 75 damage against builds, and he pre-takes these 2 walls to the left and right of the box. That's a good bit of piece control, because if his opponent edits out in those directions, he's now got piece control to directly hit a shot if his opponent's to his right or to his left. And if he doesn't edit out and he's stuck in his box, if he didn't edit down, IAmNoob can potentially edit out, or he can just break this cone and choke his opponent, take a 50-50 that just isn't a 50-50. And then he's being persistent. Once again, you see him pickaxe there, presets up the mongrel exploit and just absolutely annihilates his opponent. If we move back a bit, there's a little bit of magic about this last mongrel exploit. As we can see, he pickaxes the wall once, presetting up the ramp, and now he can either choose to attack straight in or use his pickaxe. His opponent can barely see him. His opponent can't actually get good vision on IAmNoob. He's blocked off by half the ramp. He's on the lower half of this 1x2 box, and his opponent, he's not got vision on IAmNoob, and IAmNoob utilizes that fully, and he can just get in because the opponent, he's got bad crosshair placement and he's clueless. IAmNoob brilliantly cleans up the fight using the same philosophy every fight. So what we see happen here is that IAmNoob ends up getting a laser on this player in front of him. He lines it up, 2 tags, and that's enough for IAmNoob to engage. Realistically, 1 is enough. He's trying to utilize his RPG, jumps down, doesn't catch himself here because he was trying to go for the box. He was trying to go full send right away, doesn't end up taking a wall. Instantly, he goes to the side and he sets up this. The reason why he went to the right side was because that gives him a perfect right hand peek when he makes this exact edit because of the way how the ramp was. If this player didn't edit, IAmNoob will have perfect right hand peek and his opponent will be a sitting duck. Now, if you just saw what I saw, you must be thinking IAmNoob is the most insane person at pre-firing on mobile because that second shot was disgusting. But we'll break it down. Once again, I'm going to explain the philosophy behind that second shot. So if we slowed the clip down, we see IAmNoob, doing what I was saying earlier. His opponent, quick edit, but he manages to break the ramp and land a shot. Now comes the second shot, which is so impressive and so onto his opponent. So his opponent right now has 2 options. Either his opponent decides to edit out the top, or his opponent decides to edit onto IAmNoob, or his opponent decides to disengage. Either way, IAmNoob should keep spraying his tag, because if his opponent edits out, there's a very low chance his opponent only edits the tiles behind him, therefore blocking off IAmNoob. He'll most likely edit either diagonally or horizontally, and IAmNoob will be able to easily flick onto his opponent, landing a really good second shot, perhaps even a headshot. But if he keeps spraying, and his opponent doesn't react in time, IAmNoob will be able to land a shot regardless. If he keeps spraying and his player doesn't move to the right or to the back, and IAmNoob applies constant pressure, he might take his floor, he might take his ramp, and ultimately he'll get hit. He's fighting a losing battle if he doesn't go to his right or to his left. And this player ends up editing on him. And IAmNoob was shooting anyways, so that's a free pre-fire, and IAmNoob comes out as if he hasn't took any damage at all. IAmNoob goes on to third party this fight, and we'll talk a bit about map positioning, right? So as we see, people near IAmNoob on his rotation are very unlikely to go down to where IAmNoob is and potentially be faced with those on the hill on a power position trying to get cheeky tags and trying to get a kill. Therefore, most of these people north of IAmNoob won't come down to fight him, so IAmNoob can safely fight this. That first kill was fairly standard RPG lasering through it, and this second kill was a strange one. So initially his opponent creeps up on him because IAmNoob doesn't have audio, and what ends up happening is that his opponent misses the shot, proving to IAmNoob that he is a bad player. IAmNoob has good piece control, edits down, and just unfortunately misses him. He doesn't know that he's there. He was trying to check for positioning, and it doesn't work out in his favor. Then he tries to land that big 100 tag, that shield crack on his opponent with his RPG. Full utilization, just misses because of awkward timing, and his opponent tries to fall 50-50. By this point, we've established that his opponent has terrible aim, and his opponent, no surprise, misses the shot. IAmNoob had a perfect right hand peek there for those of you quick enough to catch it. If we just move back quickly on his opponent's point of view, you'll understand why it's so fundamental that his opponent had a really awkward low hand peek. So, if we go back in the replay file and we go into gameplay for his opponent, he's just gotten pressured by IAmNoob. That was an initial RPG which took out the other opponent. That's a bit of lucky piece control. And he blocks off the other RPG, comes out, that's a 50-50, he's carrying his SMG, that's a mistake. And he doesn't land a shot. And what ends up happening is that if you see that ramp right there, that cucks his opponent. Because if you watch it slow, he's now got a left hand peek or 50-50 angle, whilst IAmNoob's got a definite right hand peek. Which means that IAmNoob has a definite advantage here. And although he lands really good damage onto IAmNoob landed considerable damage too. So both of them are trying to heal up now and trying to reset the fight fully. The fight ends up drawing on for a bit, they reset, they change positions, and what this next pick entails is brilliant bit of right hand peeking from IAmNoob. Once again, this ramp right now guarantees IAmNoob the right hand peek, and when he was on this ledge right here, he had the full right hand peek onto his opponent, but the moment he jumps out to his ramp, his opponent has a right hand peek on him. However, he is not afraid as he's catching his opponent off guard. What ends up happening now is that he tries to reset the fight once again. You obviously want to be in optimal position and you don't want to risk dying. Tries to trade a shot, doesn't work, and IAmNoob actually ends up making a mistake. But we've established this player has terrible aim. IAmNoob edits out and is able to clean up the fight pretty quickly. We see that ramp again, and this bit of movement is disgusting. His camera angle, he's moving one way, but he's checking the other. And this utilization of controller movement, of mobile movement, is so important, and everybody's got to start adopting it more and more into their gameplay. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. And if I were to give 3 takeaways from IAmNoob's fighting, one would be setting up innovative mongrel exploits and doing it only on the right timing. 2 would be this build pattern we see that's super useful as seen on screen. IAmNoob uses it a lot, you guys should too. It works in a mobile lobby and so does a mongrel exploit as we've seen. And 3, utilizing camera angle and a right hand peek. And as we saw just now, the cone jump loses you your sight line onto your opponent, but this right now doesn't lose you sightline of your opponent. It is also a safety factor. Some mobile players hit extremely hard shots, and make sure that you stay protected in terms of playing and that you take the least amount of damage possible. The reason why IAmNoob was able to do that is because of his brilliant right hand peeks. You should be able to adopt that into your gameplay too. Anyways, if you enjoyed, make sure you like, you subscribed, and also be on the lookout on my Twitter for more statistics and a video. That video will be on Rairu, a dominant force in Asia. So I'll catch you then.